There's something remarkable happening in the minds of people who live past 100, and it has nothing to do with genetics or luck. When researchers started studying centenarians in depth, they expected to find exceptional physical health or extraordinary diets, and while those factors certainly matter, what they discovered about mental habits was far more surprising. These people who reach 100 and beyond share specific ways of thinking that protect their brains, reduce stress, and create psychological resilience that carries them through a century of life's challenges. Welcome to Elderly Discoveries, where today we're uncovering the 5 daily mental habits that centenarians practice, often without even realizing they're doing something special, and how you can cultivate these same patterns of thought regardless of your current age. The first mental habit that shows up consistently among centenarians is what researchers call adaptive optimism. This isn't naive positivity, where you pretend problems don't exist or deny difficult realities. It's something more nuanced and powerful. Centenarians have a remarkable ability to reframe challenges in ways that preserve hope and agency while acknowledging difficulties. When faced with health setbacks, loss of loved ones, or other hardships that inevitably come with living a century, they find ways to focus on what they can still control and what remains possible rather than dwelling on what's been lost. The research on this is compelling. A study from Yale University followed over 600 people over the age of 50 for more than 2 decades and found that those with positive attitudes toward aging lived an average of 7.5 years longer than those with negative attitudes. 7.5 years from a mental habit, from how you think about getting older. That's more than you gain from lowering blood pressure or cholesterol, more than from maintaining ideal weight, more than from exercising regularly. The way you think about aging actually changes how you age. Centenarians don't see aging as a process of inevitable decline and loss. They see it as a stage of life with its own gifts and opportunities. They focus on gained wisdom rather than lost youth, on deepened relationships rather than physical limitations, on freedom from obligations rather than loss of roles. This isn't self-deception. They're well aware of the challenges, but they've cultivated a mental habit of directing their attention toward aspects of their experience that generate gratitude and engagement rather than bitterness and resignation. You can start cultivating this habit today by consciously reframing your internal narrative about aging. When you notice yourself thinking thoughts like "I'm too old for that," or "it's all downhill from here," pause and actively challenge those thoughts. Ask yourself what opportunities this stage of life offers that earlier stages didn't. What do you know now that you didn't know at 30 or 40? What relationships have deepened? What pressures have lifted? This isn't about forcing fake happiness. It's about training your attention to notice the complete picture rather than only the losses. The second mental habit centenarians share is present moment awareness. They're not constantly rehashing the past or anxiously projecting into the future. They're remarkably engaged with what's happening right now. When you talk to a centenarian, they're really listening to you, not waiting for their turn to speak or thinking about what they need to do later. When they're eating, they're tasting their food. When they're outside, they're noticing the weather and their surroundings. This presence isn't a meditation practice they learned from a book, though meditation certainly cultivates this quality. For most centenarians, it's simply become their natural mode of being. The neurological benefits of this present-focused awareness are substantial. Constant rumination about the past and worry about the future activate stress response systems, keeping cortisol chronically elevated and promoting inflammation. These stress states also interfere with memory formation and cognitive function. In contrast, present moment awareness is associated with lower stress hormones, reduced inflammation, better immune function, and preserved cognitive ability. Brain imaging studies show that people who practice mindfulness have more robust gray matter in regions associated with memory and emotional regulation. Centenarians also benefit from the simple fact that when you're fully present, you enjoy life more. Food tastes better. Conversations are more satisfying. Simple pleasures like sunshine or a comfortable chair bring genuine contentment. This accumulated daily enjoyment contributes to life satisfaction and psychological well-being, which are themselves protective factors for longevity. People who are satisfied with their lives take better care of themselves and have stronger motivation to maintain health. You can cultivate present moment awareness through formal meditation practice, but you can also do it informally throughout your day. When you're washing dishes, really feel the warm water and the texture of the dishes instead of being lost in thought. When someone is speaking to you, bring your wandering attention back to their words and facial expressions. When you eat, put down your phone and actually taste your food. These small practices accumulate over time into a shifted way of being that reduces stress and increases enjoyment. The third mental habit is maintaining purpose and contribution. Centenarians overwhelmingly report having reasons to get up in the morning, things they feel responsible for or committed to that give their day structure and meaning. This might be caring for a garden, maintaining relationships with family and friends, volunteering in their community, pursuing creative projects, or continuing to work in some capacity. The specific activity matters less than the feeling that they have something meaningful to contribute and that their presence in the world makes some kind of difference. The Okinawans, who have one of the highest concentrations of centenarians of the world, have a concept called ikigai, which translates roughly to reason for being. When researchers ask Okinawan centenarians about their ikigai, they can immediately articulate what it is. It's not some grand abstract purpose. It's often quite concrete and immediate. I take care of my great-grandchildren twice a week. I tend a family garden. I make traditional pottery. I lead prayer services at our community center. These purposes get them up and engaged with life. The health benefits of purpose are well documented. A study published in JAMA Psychiatry followed over 7,000 adults over 50 and found that those with a strong sense of purpose had substantially lower risk of death from all causes and were significantly less likely to develop Alzheimer's disease, stroke, or heart attack during the follow-up period. Purpose appears to work through multiple mechanisms, both behavioral and biological. People with purpose take better care of themselves, maintain stronger social connections, and engage in more physical and cognitive activity. At a biological level, purpose is associated with lower inflammation, better immune function, and healthier stress hormone profiles. If you're struggling to identify your purpose, especially after retirement or other major life transitions, start by thinking about what makes you feel needed and what brings you a sense of satisfaction when you do it. Purpose doesn't have to be career-related or conventionally important. It can be as simple as being the person who calls to check on neighbors, maintaining your independence so you're not a burden, sharing your cooking skills, or documenting family history. The key is that it feels meaningful to you and gives you a reason to engage with tomorrow. The fourth mental habit centenarians share is cognitive flexibility and openness to new experiences. This might surprise you because we tend to assume older people become rigid and set in their ways, and certainly some do. But centenarians are remarkably willing to try new things, learn new information, and adjust their thinking when presented with new evidence. They're curious about the world, interested in what's happening, and open to perspectives different from their own. This cognitive flexibility appears to be protective in multiple ways. Learning new things creates new neural connections and strengthens existing ones, building what neuroscientists call cognitive reserve. This reserve acts as a buffer against age-related brain changes and pathology. People with greater cognitive reserve can sustain more brain damage before showing symptoms of dementia because they have more redundant pathways and connections to work with. Remaining open and curious also keeps centenarians engaged with life and other people. They're interested in their grandchildren's and great-grandchildren's lives, even when those lives look nothing like their own youthful experiences. They're willing to try new technologies, new foods, new activities. This openness maintains social connections because people enjoy being around someone who's genuinely interested, rather than dismissive or judgmental. It also exposes them to more cognitive stimulation, which exercises the brain. You cultivate cognitive flexibility by intentionally seeking out new experiences and information. Learn a new skill, even something small. Try a cuisine you've never had. Read books on topics you know nothing about. Talk to people whose backgrounds and perspectives differ from yours, and really listen to understand rather than just waiting to argue. When you find yourself thinking that's not how we did things, pause and ask yourself whether the new way might actually have merit. Stay curious about the world, and it will keep your brain engaged and growing. The fifth mental habit is emotional regulation and the ability to let go of grudges and resentments. Centenarians are remarkably unburdened by old conflicts and grievances. They've developed the ability to experience difficult emotions without being controlled by them, and they've learned to release anger and resentment relatively quickly rather than carrying these toxic feelings for years or decades. When researchers ask centenarians about conflicts or betrayals from their past, they often have trouble even remembering details because they've genuinely let these things go. This isn't about suppressing emotions or pretending you weren't hurt. Centenarians feel anger, sadness, and frustration like everyone else. The difference is in what they do with these feelings. They experience them, often express them appropriately, and then release them. They don't ruminate endlessly or build elaborate narratives of victimhood. They don't let resentment poison their present experience. The health benefits of this emotional regulation are substantial. Chronic anger and resentment keep your stress response system activated, elevating cortisol and inflammatory markers. These emotional states are strongly associated with cardiovascular disease, weakened immune function, and even cancer. Studies have shown that people who harbor grudges have higher blood pressure, more pain, worse sleep, and higher rates of depression than those who practice forgiveness. Conversely, forgiveness and emotional release are associated with better physical and mental health. This doesn't mean you have to reconcile with people who harmed you or pretend the harm didn't happen. Forgiveness is more about releasing the grip that resentment has on you, refusing to let the person who hurt you continue to damage your well-being through your ongoing anger. Developing better emotional regulation takes practice, but it's absolutely possible at any age. When you notice yourself ruminating on old resentments or nursing anger, consciously redirect your thoughts. Ask yourself whether this rumination is serving any useful purpose or just making you feel worse. Practice self-compassion, recognizing that holding on to anger often comes from hurt that deserves kindness rather than more suffering. Consider whether you might be able to see the situation from a broader perspective that allows for release. What's remarkable about these 5 mental habits is that they're all learnable and cultivatable regardless of your age or current mental patterns. You don't need special genes or lucky circumstances. You need awareness and practice. The centenarians who exhibit these habits didn't take courses or read self-help books. They developed these patterns through life experience and probably some innate temperament. But you can intentionally cultivate what they arrived at naturally. Start with one habit that resonates most strongly with you. Perhaps you're already fairly optimistic, but struggle with being present. Or maybe you have strong purpose, but carry old resentments. Focus your effort there. Small daily practice. Literally just a few minutes of conscious attention to reframing your thoughts about aging, or being fully present with your morning coffee, or identifying what gives your life meaning. These small investments compound over time into transformed ways of thinking that protect your brain and extend your healthy years. Thanks for joining us on Elderly Discoveries, where we uncover the mental patterns that create extraordinary aging.